Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Kashif Booth podcast. If you're new here, each week I sit down with a guest and we discuss their career so far, the highs, the lows, and what's next for them. Today's guest is Levi Aluede. See, I got it right. He is a writer-director from London. Welcome to the show, Levi.
Hello. It's nice to see you again. It's kind of weird because we've just basically just been talking this whole time, and now we're like, okay, we're gonna start talking.
Hey, the magic of podcasting. You broke the fourth wall. Thank you. So welcome to the show, Levi. Welcome to season 2. Thank you for being a guest here today. So you're a writer-director from London. You've been directing for a few years now. So how did you get started?
How did I get started? Well, I guess like most people start with their like education, and I didn't really have any, but I did when I was in sixth form in Northamptonshire, the town that I lived in Wellingborough. I did film studies because I just didn't know what else to do. I was really like not really a good student. And then I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I didn't realize there was this much thought put into movies and that people got paid to do this. So then I thought, I think that's something I could do. And then decided that when I was like weighing up, should I go to uni and study screenwriting or directing or something? I just decided, well, what if I just try and get any job in media and just learn it? And I think I'll be fine doing that, living in London. And that's what I did. And then I eventually, after a grind, got a job and was an apprentice at this production company in Streatham.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which is why I hate Streatham. And I worked there for like maybe 4 or 5 years, and they would commission all sorts of content, like online content, pieces to camera, vox pops, documentaries, even stuff for clients. So I just ended up doing a bit of everything and shooting, editing, doing sound, even presenting and stuff like that. And then eventually I did a documentary for them. I directed that was Complexion. I directed like a short documentary for them. They were like, oh, that's nice. That seems pretty good. And then they just didn't do anything with it. So then I had it for a while and I didn't really share it, but I had it somewhere on a link, and this writer, director / journalist for Empire Magazine saw it and was like, yo, I think this is really good. Like, do you want to meet up with me and my friends? And then it kind of all started from there. And then I was like, oh, I must be good at this, because I did that documentary in like 2 weeks and I didn't really think about it like at all. And that's how I started directing, I guess. Yeah, that was probably the first thing I'd say.
That's really interesting because I've lived in Streatham my whole life and did not know there was a production company in Streatham.
They don't want you to know.
Clearly.
So I never said that.
And we're not going to name names because I know you have this vendetta against Streatham and I don't know why. Streatham is in South London if you guys don't know, but Streatham is a cool place. So yeah, lay off my city. Well, my town, I should say. So it's really interesting to hear your journey into directing as well. So you did that documentary, and then what happened next? Because I know you as best known for being writing and directing Visions, your award-winning web series.
Okay.
So how did you get into Visions? How did it get
From
to that?
that to Visions. So I did that documentary in like 2017, and then I was doing cinematography. I was a cinematographer, and then I shot a few shorts, and I think like a year or two later, I was like, oh, I want to do a short film. And I don't really have Visions at the time was a feature film script, and it was really weird and different, and no one would fund that. And I was like, I don't really have a movie that's a short that I could actually do with like no money if I self-funded it. So I just quickly wrote a movie, shot that. It was called Ingenue. I hated it. But a lot of people really like it, but I don't like it, and I don't talk about it. But I felt really like not disappointed with myself, but like I had a lot of high hopes because it's your first short film, your first narrative. And I just felt like I was too in my own head. I was too like, oh, the style and, trying to pop. When you make your first short, you always want to put like every like reference to everything you love in it, right? Even if it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And just like, having a solid plot for a thing and the structure. So I felt awful for a little while, and then another year or two went by, and I thought to myself, what am I going to do next? Like, I feel like I totally failed. I'm going to do something which is like a crowd pleaser.
Crowd pleaser and Levi in the sentence. I never thought I'd ever hear that.
Exactly, right? I was like, I'm going to do a crowd pleaser kind of thing, but it has to be something that I genuinely want to do as well. So I took that feature script concept and was like, how about I do a series? Because honestly, it was pure like, I can't remember what the word is, but like I was trying to like kind of show off. I was like, I want to do something long and in a different format and just more better and more than it needs to be for no money, and like say that, look, I can do this shit. And then I wrote the 4 episodes over like maybe 8 or 9 months or something. We shot it for like £800 with a bunch of filmmakers, like people I really wanted to work with who agreed to work on it like for free, because they were also coming up around the same time. And then released it, and it just kind of blew up into this thing that people really liked, and I was kind of surprised. And that came out in like 2020, so like we shot the top of 2020, and then it came out in like spring and summer, and so it was a really weird time where we had done this thing, it was coming out, being received extremely well, and I couldn't go to any festivals or anything, and everybody was in lockdown, and it was just like experiencing all this from your home. Very strange.
I can imagine, because the film festival experience, especially when you have a project in there and it's doing so well, and you get to meet other filmmakers, and that's how you get signed and all this other stuff, and then you're just at home, just having all these panels virtually and stuff like that. Yeah. So I totally understand that, because I remember seeing the festival run and it just doing so well, and I was like, I really want to see this, and then I finally got to when you released it online. So and I'm a big fan of Visions, as you know, so yeah, so it was good to finally see it. Let's just say that, because you know how it is, like as filmmakers, people don't know that when you have a project out and you want to have exclusivity to it and really do well, it takes ages for you to even get to be able to release it. Yeah. Sometimes like a year or 2 after you've actually made it.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling now.
Yes, we'll get into that. So when it comes to Visions, like one thing you can tell that it was shot within like a few days. Well, for me, I'm a producer, so I can put this 2 and 2 together. So like I can tell it was shot over a few days. You really were very specific on attention to detail and natural light, and I know that's definitely a big thing for you. So, and that's also in all of your work so far from what I've seen. So what is that? Why is that a stylistic choice for you?
It's easier. I guess I came from documentaries, so I was used to just going into a room. You didn't know where you were going. You don't know who. You might know who the face is going to be, but you go somewhere and you just figure out, okay, where is the light coming from? Where can I bounce? Where can I dissolve? Diffuse. Sorry. So when it comes to doing narrative, for me, doing that, keeping that in mind and working around that helps me think, like gives me more time to do other stuff, because I don't like the faff of like changing lights and shit like between takes and before a scene. I like it to be as simple as possible. And I was a DP as well, so that's like, it's like I know what can be done, so I just try to implement it in all of the films, and even when I'm writing a script.
No, yeah. I get that. I mean, I like to tend to do the same kind of thing, but that was just because I had a limited budget. So I was literally writing and thinking, how can I shoot something within this time frame and knowing that I can get everything done. And I think you pulled it off better than I did because you had a better team. And why I say that is because the reason why I say that is because you have a better team who supported your vision, and they know you, so they know what you like, So I think for me, I wish that if I could go back, I would have had a stronger team to be able to build what I wanted in a better way.
It was definitely, Visions was the first thing where I felt like, it was also the first thing I was like, this is actually like me, like this is what I want to do. And that was in every aspect of it, because even the costumes, like all the costumes were like custom made things, or like, because we had a great costume designer who could do that. And the DP as well was very much had their own style, like the opening credits, the stuff that they had all shot like on their own. So it was definitely an implementation of like, if I had control over this, what would it be like? and how can I use this to the advantage of the story, you know? And I'm very like, well, you've worked with me a little bit on like prepping stuff, but like things like costumes and props and like that stuff is really intimate to me, and I think that's what sells a movie. Really, is like the care you take in what's in the frame and how the lens is actually like catching the light, receiving what is in front of it. Yeah.
No, I definitely see that in your work, and it's especially within The Smell of Cut Grass, your other film, which we'll get into later, and a little bit in Sanctuary as well, which we'll get into later as well. So we got a lot to talk about. So that's really cool. So yeah. So after Visions did so well, what was the next kind of phase into your career? Where did you want to go? Because you saw the success it had. So then, what was on your mind? Where did you want to take your career next?
I had no idea. I had no idea. I just, because I made it kind of like for fun. I was working at the time, and it was like something on the side. I think after that, and I didn't expect it to really do so well, even though I wanted it to. You know, not really sure. So I think after, it was like a long time before it like kind of died down, and then I thought it was like towards the end of the lockdown of like the second year, and things were going to open again soon. And I just thought maybe I should try do this directing thing like 100%. But basically wasn't doing it 100% before. And I was like, what if I really, really tried and spent like every day like coming up with things, trying to get things in motion, whatever. And then 2 weeks later, I sent my CV in to this ad that you retweeted on Twitter, actually, looking for a writer for a short film. Sent my CV in, had the interview with the producer, Saru. And she saw that I directed and was like, hey, do you want to direct the short? I was like, sure. And that was like 2 weeks after I was like, oh, I'm going to do this for real now. And then suddenly I was doing The Smell of Cut Grass, which was an idea I'd sort of had as like I made a pitch for ICA for something, and I didn't get funding for it. And then I was like, oh, this is actually perfect, because that pitch, I really would have wanted it to just be like a 10-minute short instead of like a 5-minute visual thing. So yeah.
That's so interesting. And the reason why I'm laughing to myself is because I've put so much people on and not known it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
see,
I have to say, because I didn't know like that whole like production company, Saru, all that. I didn't know anything about that. It was really just, I remember seeing Kashif retweeted this and like, oh, like a writing job, so rare. Let me like actually send some shit in. And yeah, and I'll always think that like I'll never would have got that job. I would have done that film. The film I'm doing now, like I never would have got that if you didn't retweet that one thing and I didn't see it. You know?
You know what? It's so funny. Serafina, creative Tyler Versus, like she was saying how she was on set the other day and like 5-6 people knew who I was and I didn't know. I was like, what? And I'm like, this is great. I'm rooting for everybody black, but I'm just waiting for that moment for myself. Like, hello exactly. guys. But I loved it. I love that because I've seen an early cut of The Smell of Cut Grass, and again, huge fan of it, and I really like.
Have you not seen the final cut?
I think you. Yeah, you probably did send it, but I remember seeing like an earlier cut, so that's probably what's still in my mind. But I did see the final cut, I think. But yeah, like again, and so. What was the direction behind that film? Because I know you said you directed it, but didn't write it. So when you met up with Saru and her production company...
The Smell of Cut Grass, I did write.
Oh,
actually.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when you did meet up with Saru and you met up with her production company, what was the direction behind it? What was it, what you wanted? What was the story you wanted to tell? And what was it like working with a production company, not just funding it yourself? What was that whole experience like?
It was amazing. that was the first time, I worked with another production company, and it was like a commission to do a movie, and the most money I had for a movie at the time. And the idea, I had like an idea for something which I knew would be a 10-minute film, would be better as a 10-minute film. I hadn't written the script or anything. And the part of what they were doing was like a full film. And I've learned this happens most of the time actually. When you do a commission for a short film, they actually commission more than just you. Like it's probably like a group of people, right? Mm-hmm. So they were making a series of films, like 4 films about different aspects of Black love. And the film that I was hired to do was like an LGBTQ specific, so which fit with the idea I had. So I was like, great. And then she sent me like a poem or something, like the inspo for it. And I just went from there, and literally, I think I had like 6 weeks to write the movie. So I had this idea, which was like a pitch, and then made that into like a 10-page screenplay. Um, waking up every day, doing the writing, doing the research, coming up with the story and the structure. And the main, because when I had the next meeting with Saru about, the screenplay, she was like, you can do anything you want. Like literally you can do anything you want. Doesn't have to be a story or anything. Like just as long as this part of the brief is in the movie. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get funding and doing a commission where I don't need to have a plot for the movie. That's the best thing ever. So I'm going to have a plot because I know what it's like to do a movie without a plot, and that's bad. So have a very basic plot, but then it's more about the aspects of what you see in the movie, just presenting what you see and trying to make something that is just not what other people make and not what's in short films or this side of the LGBTQ plus community, just something that feels as well like kind of cozy and comfortable and homely and warm. And that kind of set me off in a whole different, like, I think I really figured out at least some of the kinds of movies I want to make, like a whole path of I actually do want to do this kind of thing and this sort of style. Because I did a lot of research watching a lot of LGBTQ films, but also watching other films. Like I watched a lot of Ang Lee films, but his early films, like when he just started, I was like, this is amazing. Like I didn't know this guy did any of this. It's not even like out there. But actually the scripts that I had been writing and stuff, I'm like, oh, these elements are already done and they're done well. So I'm going to like infuse this now into my own work. And I really love The Smell of Cut Grass. I'm really proud of that movie because I feel like it's the most like me you'll ever get in a movie. And it's done really like confidently, because having money, like having a good crew and stuff was nice.
Exactly. So when is it coming out? Because I'm just seeing it's been delayed. Like, Levi is on Twitter and he's always announcing what's going on with his career. So what's the delay? Like, come
on. I'm just waiting on, well, at the moment, there's things, we've talked about things and we know there will be screenings of it in London. It's really just a date thing of just when and where and what will be the first one. Honestly, as soon as I delivered the movie, I was like, I'm chilling now. So whenever it comes out, whatever. But that's been hard to kind of, because usually, like if you self-fund your thing, you have complete control over that. Like when things are coming out, who is seeing it, where you're sending it to. But with this, it's more like, I might recommend things or whatever, but I'm not really. I'm just, when you need me, you call me and I'll be there and I'll do all the stuff you want me to do and it will be out. But I can't wait for it to be out too. So
there's no film festival run for The Smell of Cut Grass?
I don't know. I think there will be. I'm not sure. I just know that you will be able to see it before the end of the year for sure. Definitely. Okay, cool. Well, it's summer now, so probably before winter, I hope. Okay. So cool. Yeah.
Okay. So that's fine. So like when you had done, when did you shoot Smell of Cut Grass again?
Spring 2021. Spring 2021. Wow. Yeah. Oh, so wow. That's last year.
Wow. So long ago now.
Yeah, it is a long time ago.
Okay. Because like I remember before you shot that, we had started working on a project together because it was the height of Black Lives Matter in June 2020. And I remember you messaged me about a project you had. And yes, because you had like a
whole drama thing.
Yes, let's just say trash producer who just was talking reckless about Black Lives Matter. And so you reached out to me. I was like, yes, I mean, I'd love to produce this project. So do you want to spill a little bit more beans about that project?
Okay, so the movie's called The Day My Father Built the World. And it's about, well, basically a friend of mine came to me with like the story of her father's life and how she had like reconnected with her father massively, and found out all the stuff about him that she didn't know, and then walked me to the Black Cultural Archives in Brixton and showed me a picture of him and was like, look, this is him, this is what he did. And I was like, excuse me, what? And then she gave me a couple books that he had written about. Some of them were fiction, some of them was like non-fiction, and said, hey, do you want to make a movie of one of these books? Because, she was a fan of my movies. And I said, I don't know, sure. Went off, read some of it, came back, and was like, look, I think the movie is about you and your dad. I don't think the movie is about like these books. I think it's your connection to your dad. And with the Black Lives Matter stuff, it was like this generational trauma thing, actually. And the difference is because one of the things that made them really reconnect was like she was an LGBTQ plus member. And, you know, she's a woman in the 21st century, and like they're very different. And, you know, he's coming from Nigeria in the 20th century under colonialism and come to London, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought it's so interesting if you could like parallel those stories and put them on top of each other. And it's a real thing about a father and a daughter. And then, and he also just had a fucking, well, can I swear on this?
Of course.
He had a fucking like just crazy life of just all these massive events in British history that everybody knows, but maybe not enough people know or even know the context of. So having his life to have context of it was great. So
and that's what attracted me to the project so much, because when we talk about Black history in the UK, it's heavily about African American history, and as Black British people, we need to know stories like The Day My Father Built the World. That's the name of the film. And it's like, you know, the telling of the Black Panther movement and, you
like
know,
British Black Panthers. Like, a lot of people don't even know that there are British Black
I've said
Panthers.
it to so many people and they're like, what? This happened in UK? How do I not know about this? Because Britain, and I've said this before, like Britain tend to just try to erase their history when it comes to slavery and everything they did with the colonialism and capitalism of this whole world. I learned
so much doing research on that movie, man.
Exactly.
So much.
And we're really excited about this film. We've had very different variations of it. You know, it's essentially a feature film. We was going to do a proof of concept film and really try to build it. But I think we're both in that place where we're done with short films and trying to get funding the traditional way like that for it to take 5-6 years to get a film made. You know, we're just kind of going all in with the feature film, and it's a documentary. That's the thing. It's a documentary with scripted elements to it as well, and we're really excited because it's going to be not just a story to educate people, but I feel like people are really going to feel inspired by it as well. And I feel like it will just be able to highlight Black British history outside of just slavery.
I want it to be like the kind of movie that, you know, you are in history like class and your teacher shows you the movie and you're like, fuck, that was a good movie, you know, and accidentally you learn a lot of shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because so many black British pioneers have just faded into the background. Like Mary Seacole, she did so much, and then she just was rediscovered in the 1980s, and people were like, what? How did we not know about her? So that was 40 years ago now. So we need to just keep telling these stories, because, you know, non-Black people will be happy just to erase the history of what we've done in this country. So it's really exciting. And stay tuned. I'm sure we'll have Levi back on to tell the whole process.
Every movie I do, I write a reflective essay after the movie. That one for that movie is going to be so long.
So long. Because, you know, I joined the project 2 years ago. And you were working on it prior to...
for like maybe 2 years or a year before.
Exactly. So, and so now we're just back in the development stages with the script and stuff like that. So it's exciting to kind of really get to grips with it.
It's been good though, because we've had so many different variations and stuff of it, but we've always, for me, so much about, you know, it's filmmaking. So there's always this part where it's imagination and then it's physical. We've gotten so close to doing the physical, which still makes me comfortable, because that's the most important part. Like thinking about props, thinking about sets, and, you know, actors. We did rehearsals, we shot it, like, you know, so it's like, we know what the movie would be like. We just don't have a movie.
Yeah, exactly. You know? We just need the money, and that's it. Because I say this all the time. If I'm doing a feature film, I'm not doing a feature film with no less than £100,000. Like, no. Anthony was on my podcast last week, which you said you listened to, and he did his very first feature film with £8,000.
I couldn't believe it.
No, I'm not doing that. No, my Newlyweds pilot cost 8K. So no. No, so we're not doing that. So yeah. So moving on. So you were recently also commissioned by the BFI to direct another LGBTQ plus film called Sanctuary,
Yeah.
and you just wrapped that a few months ago?
Yeah. When did we shoot? May or April or
Yeah.
something? Yeah. So
And how was that? I mean, first of all, congratulations for getting,
Funding.
BFI to commission your film. I
Thanks.
mean, you have amazing producer Dami anyway. So yeah, tell us, how did that all come about?
That came about. I had met Dami through like a Zoom once on Twitter. Like after we had Visions, I was like, oh, there's a lot of people here that are like surrounding me now that I don't know. So if you want to like have a chat, because it was during the lockdown times, nothing to do, like let's have a Zoom and let's have a one-on-one. Let's just talk, And he was one of the people that I spoke to. Then I never spoke to him again. And then a few months later, I was in post on the Smell of Cut Grass, and Dami called me and was like, yo, I prayed last night for a director for this movie.
Wow.
Do you want to like read the script for this movie? And, I'm going to apply to BFI funding soon. And I was like, sure. Okay. Read the treatment, read the script, and thought, this is exactly the kind of movie that BFI would fund. Because I guess, once you've done a few movies and you've watched, funded movies and stuff, you can kind of tell like just what
100%,
stuff
100%.
It's really not hard.
Honestly, after watching, because Levi gave me an early cut of Sanctuary, he does that a lot, which I feel really I kind of feel really like that, you value my opinion, but watching it I was like, yes, it's definitely a BFI
It's
film.
a BFI movie,
like
and when
100%.
you read the script you're like, totally, this is a BFI movie. And I had recently watched another movie, and I'm not going to say the name of the movie here or the filmmaker because that's not good.
Off when we stop recording.
Yeah. I watched recently another LGBTQ plus movie which had a really, really similar, almost exactly the same themes, almost exactly the same movie actually. And I said to Dami when I had the meeting with him, the first one, I was like, look, here's this movie. I hate this movie. I want to do the opposite of this movie. So, which BFI also funded. Actually, the producer of that movie is the exec producer of that movie is also the exec producer of our movie.
Interesting.
So I said the same thing to him when we had our first movie with meeting with BFI. Like, are you happy with that? Like, because I'm gonna go all in on this weird, new, unique version, very Barry Jenkins kind of like vision of this. And he was like, yeah, sure. And I had to make like a director's pitch, statement, vision, mood board, all that stuff in like 2 weeks because that was the deadline. So I just did loads of research really quickly, did that, was like, okay, bye. Like, you're probably not going to get funding, whatever. But he was already producing a BFI film from last year.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, he might, but I'm not putting, you just, when you're writing, you just don't put all your eggs into a basket. So a few months later, he called me. I was like, Levi, we got funding. I was like, funding for what? What are you talking about? I was like, funding for that film, man. I was like, oh shit. Oh no, I have to do this work now for the next year. I have to work on a movie. And he hadn't, even when he called me the first time about doing the movie, he had not seen The Smell of Cut Grass or anything. He knew Visions. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually doing another romantic LGBTQ film. And I think this would be a perfect like mirror to that movie, like a double bill. So it just made sense. Everything was just at the right time. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's a great story. I mean, honestly, it's funny how you just forgot about it and didn't really
honestly
think...
I really like he really like messaged me and I messaged him back like, oh yeah, cool, for like a next day. And I still didn't know what was going on. And then he was like, Leave, I'm talking about the movie Sanctuary, because I think maybe at that point we had spoken about doing other projects and stuff. So, and I was like, oh shit, doing a movie for the BFI. This is weird.
That's crazy. So what was it like working with the BFI? I mean, BFI are the industry standard in this country. So what was it like working with such, like having as a producer and so many, people attached? Because loads of directors I know who've, written or directed pilots for Channel 4 and stuff, and they've told me about the chokehold these execs have on the project, and they don't feel like they can breathe or actually even just be creatively free when they're trying to, put their spin or their touch on a project? What was it like?
Honestly, they have been really good. They've been really
That's
nice.
really good.
Yeah, they've given us pretty much freedom to just do what we want to do, and also still guiding. I think that when you get the film commissioned, before you really start prep or anything, there's like a weekly program thing you have to do where they talk to the producers, the writers, the directors. They give you examples. You have other people who've made BFI shorts come in and they talk about their films and what they learn. Because for some people it's their first movie,
Wow.
like which is weird to think about. Like, you could get funding for your first movie, or it's just your second movie and maybe your first movie was on your phone, right? So then you're learning about all this stuff you've never done, like sound and editing and stuff. And I feel like there's probably like not as much. I don't feel like it's as intensive as it should be for people like that. Like, for me, I went to some of it and I was like, I literally just did a movie and I just did an episode of something else. Like, I'm like pretty confident. But for someone else, and I know this just from like what producers have said, either on our just like scheme or the one before, about directors that they've worked with who have just like no real clue what they're doing with it, and then they're really struggling. That should be a more intensive course. They should probably do more teaching in that aspect of it. But in terms of creatively what you want to do with your movie, they're pretty much open. They tell you their concerns about the script or whatever. For example, the script was like 15-16 minutes or something, and maybe at 5 minutes or 6 minutes you get like a piece of the story which is like an important piece of story, that you're worried that it's too long or whatever. It's normal stuff, which was all fine by me. So they've been pretty flexible with us. I've always said though, like, we'll wait until we deliver the movie to them and see what they see. But they've watched cuts and stuff and they're like, this looks like it's going somewhere really good. So yeah.
That's really good to hear because, like I said, I've heard horror stories when it comes to, just what people have to deal with from execs and stuff like that. So, but that's so interesting that you were saying about, how some directors or some of the crew, it's like their first short film and they are really inexperienced and they need to probably do more courses and stuff. It's very annoying to hear that as well.
Yeah.
Because it
really is. Because some people are working their asses off.
Exactly. And they're not, like, we were just complaining before we start recording, like, where's the next step? Like, what do we have to do to kind of get in these rooms? And it's so interesting because I saw a video the other day where, like when you seeing these really influential or aspirational entrepreneurs and stuff, and they have these, those really like corny podcasts where it's like, you've got 24 hours a day and that crap. And it's like, and the person who was just complaining about those people was saying that you can't really listen to those people. You can read all their books, but a lot of it is just luck. And it's the truth.
It is.
A lot of it's just luck.
Everything I just said to you was just luck. Like it was just things at the right time.
Exactly.
But you have some agency in that luck of, like, the Swan Cut Grass was a pitch I did for something else that didn't come off, and Visions was like a thing that also didn't come off that was a different thing. Like, you can put yourself into a gray area where the luck can happen to you and it's more likely, but you still need it, and you need other people, especially with films. It's like you can't really do it on your own.
Yeah, exactly. But then when I see luck happening to people who I know who are talented, who've worked hard, put out solid work, I'm happy for them because you know what? When I saw you had the BFI opportunity, I was so happy. I was like, yes, that's great. Because that's somebody I know who's talented and actually now can really take his career to the next level. That's all I see you and BFI attached. I'm like, okay, if this goes where it's supposed to go, Levi's going to be commissioned to make our film, but other people's films as well, and then just go to the next level. So
that is all weird. That is like, it's weird thinking, like, part of it for me, so much of it is subverting, because I was quite outspoken about things I didn't like, especially in the short film industry. And the BFI are very much, they really push a lot of the main short films that come out in a year, in the British industry are BFI shorts. And I'm like, I don't really like them, most of them, to be honest. But so for me, most of it's been about subverting the norm, and there's a story that plays into their hands, but it's so me. I can add so much of me and subvert what, like, for example, there's a drug dealer in the movie, and even just like the costume of the dealer is like, this is what they would want you to do, like all black, like hoodie, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get like a fur collar, like a really expensive jacket, like just totally make something that feels more worldly and less like British industry. This is what we want. This is what we're gonna put out.
And that's a really good point, because I didn't think of that when I was watching it, but it's true. When I was looking at the drug dealer, he just looked like another regular person out on the street, and that is how they look. Now, I'm not saying that I do drugs, guys. I'm just saying.
We're not saying that we do drugs.
No, I'm just saying that, and he did look just like a normal person, and so did the other co-star, Ade, in his character Ade in it as well. Like, just regular people who, and everyone's unsuspecting because nobody knows what people do behind closed doors. But now that you said that, you really do have a great effect on the audience by that, because it's so relatable in that way.
Yeah.
And then also, I said to you before that, what I loved how it's different from your previous work, but also the same, because I see your style is very particular, and I love that, because you had a budget with this, so I saw, okay, this is what you wanted to do with the money, right?
Oh, having money.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think I said to you earlier as well that I really loved one of the sequences what felt like a feature film, because you don't really see sequences like that where it was just like a revolving door of like the same scene kind of just being repeated over and over again, or the sequence, and that was great to see as well.
That was scripted, actually.
That's really good to know as well. Okay.
That, and then it was pretty much like always like that. Yeah.
I like that, because I thought it was going to be a stylistic choice from you, actually. So I do like that, how that was implemented from the script and on screen, because sometimes it might be different, and how some directors, they like to change the script, or
I changed a lot of stuff.
Okay,
for sure. Yeah, and I did some co-writing on the script.
Oh, okay.
With like dialogue and stuff like that, and I changed a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of stuff that's exactly the same.
Great. Well, that's another hit for Levi, guys. Who knows when it will be out, because but I'm privileged to be able to see Levi's work early. So
that is meant to be out. There is more of a plan with that one. Okay. That is meant to be out next year. And we'll do festivals from like the top of the year till like summer. So next summer it should be out.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it you might see that before you even see the Sonic. Who even knows? I don't know.
Okay. So some of the listeners probably are thinking, okay, Levi is he sounds like a great director, but he's probably like an LGBTQ focused story director. So is that you, Levi?
No.
Or...
That was coincidence. Like I said, like Dami didn't know what I was doing, and I got the job and you got funding. So that was coincidence. Visions is a sci-fi show. I did an episode of Silverback, which was like an action sci-fi show. It was like a superhero thing. I started with documentaries. The Day My Father Built the World was like a, very historical, movie. So my interest is all over the place. I pitched you that Lewis Hamilton movie last time that I saw you.
I don't know why you said that on here. Now people are going to take the idea.
No, they won't. Because it's not going to be as good as this.
Well, they don't even know what it's about, so we'll just keep that hush-hush.
So that, I want to do horror. I want to do like serial killer movies. I want to do just everything. But it's that thing of getting pigeonholed into... I'm scared of that happening, because now it's like, I'm doing a feature now, and that is like a romantic film as well, and a very LGBTQ heavy sort of movie. And it worries me to know, like, I'm gonna have a short film, another short film, then be doing this feature, and then people are gonna be like, yeah, that's the person who does that.
It's very hard, because the industry does pigeonhole you. It's just how it is. Like, Jordan Peele is now seen as
people are like horror, right?
Director.
I don't know if his new film even is a horror movie. It seems like more of a sci-fi kind of movie.
Yeah, probably. From what I've been trying to read non-spoiler reviews, because unfortunately we have to wait till the 12th of August. For some reason. So it's the film, but but then when you look at his comedy sketch show Key and Peele, so he's a versatile writer, director. So people just love to pigeonhole you. And as I'm now working in advertising, and I'm seeing loads of different directorials all the time, and we're having meetings with people, you can see that people just always want to sell. Okay, who can we put to direct this advert, because they've done this before and we can trust that they can pull it off. Nobody wants to take a risk with somebody else, because there's so many other people to answer to, and then it's just like a shit show. So that's probably why I feel like people like to pigeonhole you, but as a creative, you just have to do what you can before you don't have money, or if you get money you can just make it whatever you want to
Yeah.
make. I think that's the best thing for you to do. And I
Mm,
felt the same way. I was being pigeonholed before, and then now I've done sci-fis, I've done all different kind of stuff just to
mm.
show that, look,
What
I
was the
can
thing that they were pigeonholing you for?
comedy.
Comedy, yeah,
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 because I've done 4 web series, as you
yeah.
know, and
Mad, four,
yeah.
mad. I did one. I was like, no,
I don't know why I started off in
yeah,
web series when short films are so much easier. Because like when I started doing short films, I was like, oh wow, like this is such a sigh of relief. Like
yeah.
it's so much easier.
But you
Instead
do
of
a series, it's like 4 short films or
yeah,
five
well, I
short
was
films.
doing like 5, 6.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, so you
Mm.
don't want to do web series out the gate. Do that like
Definitely, you need to do a film before you do
yeah,
a
yeah,
web
yeah, yeah,
series.
yeah,
But I
definitely.
love doing a web series so much, and I
Hmm.
love like serial format now.
Yeah.
Was not interesting to me really until I did one, and I was like, oh, I love
No,
this.
I agree. I agree. So I love serial format because of character development,
Mm,
and I love how you can bring different characters in and take them out. You know, they can
yeah.
just be a part of this person's story just for that
Mm,
moment. With a film, you need to have other characters in there to actually move the story along to get to the big beginning,
yeah.
middle, and
Everything
end.
needs to link
Yeah,
really
exactly. So
sharply.
that's what I love about TV. Like, there can be one person's arc can just be this, and then they move into another, and then
Mm,
that's just like what everyday storytelling is as well.
mm,
But it can always also be framed in different genres as well. So it
mm,
doesn't have to be like just somebody about everyday life situation. You can just tell it whatever story you want to tell,
yeah.
and just keep it moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're not pigeonholed as a director because we know that you're versatile out here.
I hope
So
so. I hope so. I'm having breakdowns over
I mean,
it.
you're fine. You're fine. You'll be all right. You'll be all right. So, what's next? What can you share is coming up? Like, what's going on?
um, right now I'm doing a documentary. I'm editing a little food documentary that I just did on my own for fun. But I'm really enjoying. Well, am I? I'm not really doing much editing right now, but I think it's going to be really cool. I'm trying to do some TV pictures, so I'm developing a couple of like series bibles for things, including a Visions TV series
Oh, great.
actually. So if anybody likes Visions and wants to buy it or pick it up or something,
Hint, hint.
hint, yeah. Which took me a long time to really get around to thinking about properly. Um, and doing this feature film with Euras Films, which was they did This Mother Cut Grass, developing that, writing that, trying to get funding for that. And I really, really there's honestly a lot of things. There's a lot of things, but really the feature I think is the main thing at the moment, and these films coming out right now. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And I was saying to you earlier that when I look at you and I think of Levi, I think you're the epitome of a director. I say that because of your aura. You're just very laid back, chill. You always have sunglasses on. I think almost every time I've met up with you, you always have sunglasses. You know, And I remember because you had watched Talia Versus, and then that's how you saw Jamal, who's in The Day My Father Built the World.
Yeah.
And like I said, you're very like every other major director you kind of would probably be a fan of, who just like see somebody in something and they're like, I want you in this film. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
this is so cool for me, because also I've never worked with a director like that. It's usually been the process of like putting out a casting call, and
Really?
then just that
Oh
whole
no. I
rollout.
love
Yeah.
like picking up someone from something and being like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna drop you in this now. Or even if like I do that with most of the movies I've done, it's been like I'm picking the people who are in the movie. Like The Smell of Cut Grass, I picked like almost everybody in the movie. But even the people I didn't pick, it was watching their reels. Like, okay, so Faith Kigundu is in that movie, and she was in like now she was in like Dash Cam or something. But at the time, she was in Nintendo ads playing like the little girl, because she just looked young and was kind of short. And I was like, look, I saw your reel, and there's nothing like this movie in this reel, which is why I want you to do this movie, because I think that you probably really want to do this movie because you're getting pigeonholed. Basically, you're getting pigeonholed into doing this kind of thing all the time, and it's probably not you at all. So I want to work with you on developing this character and bringing like a really strong performance and something really different to your career and your reel and stuff. And I like that. I think like I like David Fincher a lot. He's like the school of directing to me is Fincher. And I think one thing he does really well that people don't really notice is casting. He just like Gone Girl Ben Affleck is just like genius, you know.
100%.
And Tyler Perry is in that movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's one of
yeah.
the best Tyler Perry performances ever, right? It's just
The
like
best.
yeah. He just brings these like the right people for the right roles where you already have a certain idea of who they are, and it plays so well into the story and the film and the characters and their performance, and they do really great work. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I was gonna ask you actually, who are some of your inspirations as a filmmaker, or who your influences?
Influences is a good one, actually. I'm glad you didn't say like favorites, because I don't have favorites. Influences, definitely David Fincher, because I just feel like he is like one of the best directors maybe like ever. He's just really good at his job. It's like directing, really precise, really clear, can deliver really complicated stories to like The Social Network is not a movie that should be interesting really, but
You're
it's
right.
so easy to watch, and
You're
you
right.
get
You're
it, and it's
right.
really personal, even though it's like if you read that on paper it's probably not that personal. Obviously the script is really good and all that. And Lynn Ramsey, I really love Lynn Ramsey's work. She is just a genius, like one of the smartest directors. She can convey so much feeling in like a few seconds, and it's crazy. um Barry Jenkins as well, just very sensual and sensitive kind of filmmaker. And I feel like what maybe things like there's not many black directors in general, but the thing that was missing, I think, was that like the thing like Steve McQueen wasn't doing, Barry Jenkins is doing. Like, and I don't know, other people. Denis Villeneuve is like a huge, obviously does a lot of like sci-fi and like thriller movies, but um, I I first watched one of his movies, and that was when I was like, oh, I want to be a director. So I think they're all not so far away from each other, really. But yeah, those are the people I would say.
Nice, good choices. I understand those influences and I can see that in your
Mm.
work, and also what you can do with a budget and
Mm.
also different genres as well. So that's why I
Yeah.
really would like to see you step into different genres of filmmaking, like more sci-fis and the horror. I just want to see what else you can do outside of like the romance realm.
I feel like sci-fi and horror is probably the most natural to me, like to do. Like Visions to me wasn't hard. It was like really easy, which it was really comfortable place to work in. And I really do want to do a horror movie, and I really do want to do another sci-fi thing. And that originality of the stories and making it a very like lo-fi sci-fi of like it's 10 minutes from now, it's like the real world, but just some slight changes. I feel like there's a whole direction of my career which is doing that, and then a whole nother direction which is doing romance, you know, and totally different movies that are more like an Ang Lee or, you know, something of that kind of like, which are much more down to earth and personal stories. And definitely I want to do both of those and just together at the same time, for sure.
It will come. It will come. Like I said, I feel like Sanctuary will take you where you're supposed to go. I feel like so. Yeah, you heard it here first, guys. So yeah, look back, listen back. Trust me, and I feel like you'll be able to get to that point where you'll be able to get signed, and you just be able to just start making what you want to make. You know, and that's everyone's goal.
I will say, like, I've definitely feel this now because I've heard more horror stories from people I've worked with who've done more outside of me now and in the industry and TV and whatever. But I've been really lucky to have really great producers and really great production companies like backing me and just people around me, because every movie I've made has been so much fun. And even there was one time I was a director on something where it was trickier, but the crew just all came together and really made it happen. But generally, everybody has just been really amazing, and I've always had like creative freedom, like total creative freedom to do pretty much whatever I want, to go away from the script, or you know, to do a stylistic thing which is different. And I just feel like I'm really grateful for that. And I think maybe people think, oh, I've gotten quite far quite quickly, but I think it's probably because I've had that freedom. I haven't had so many people be like, you can't do this, you can't do that. I feel like that's probably been a big factor in it. Yeah.
Well, I think as somebody who is black, he, they, I'm happy that you've got there so quickly. So yeah, I want to see more getting where you are very quickly. So I think that's really a great position to be in, and it's literally just the beginning. That's the thing. So it's
Yeah.
like you have a long career ahead of you. So,
Yeah, I've only done 3 short films. What was that?
exactly, and a web series. So yeah, and that's what you want to do. You want to be able to have solid work and then be able to take your career to the next level, instead of, like we were mentioning before, of people who are just churning out content and there's no growth in their work, and it's quantity over quality.
They make a lot of money, or like a
mean,
big audience or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, like I don't know if that's true actually.
That's why I said maybe, because you just don't know. So yeah, so it's just hit or miss as well, and it's all about quantity as well.
I'm trying to have no misses, bro.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of projects, I didn't mention them, but like in between those things where trying to get stuff off the, I mean, like our film, right, is like one of those things, but lots of things that trying to get off the ground, all shot and even done and edited and just didn't get released because of some fucking faff. So there's failure in there. It's just really plucking at it and, seeing what comes off. So they weren't misses, but things that like they were blanks, And I'm trying to make sure that if I do, like, if the gun goes off, it's hitting for sure, bro.
Exactly. Well, Levi, thanks again for coming on my podcast. It was great interviewing you and having a great chat. So where can people find you?
On Twitter, Levi Snafu. Anything Levi Snafu, really. Just Levi Snafu on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And you can watch, like, Visions is on YouTube, and there'll be like other interviews and links to other stuff that I've done. And these other movies will come out soon enough.
Great. Well, thanks guys for listening. You can follow me all on my usual socials. You know what they are. They're really long. So yeah, stay tuned for the episodes coming soon.